absolutely no memory.
Of who starts?
Yeah.
Well, lucky for you, I have my trusty notebook.
You do, yeah.
It's my turn.
Okay.
So welcome to Why Did You Read That? The library podcast with me, Meagan.
And me, Peter.
Where we talk about books and stuff.
And I'm trying to turn up my headphones.
You just blasted my eardrums.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, yep. Okay. That does get quite loud, quite fast. I'm so sorry.
You are not lying.
Are you okay now?
I am fine now.
Okay.
But it was a close thing. You know, I am already partially deaf. You don't need to rush it.
That's true, yeah.
No.
Time will take care of everything on its own.
That's right. All right, so before we get into the books and stuff,
I
have a joke for you.
Okay, I'm ready for a joke.
This one kind of tickled me, so I hope you enjoy it.
Okay.
Where do you take someone who's been injured in a peekaboo accident?
Oh, to the ICU.
Yeah. Well done. I did not guess that one, but when I heard it, I was like, that's funny.
Quick baby story. So
Okay.
I am an uncle relatively recently.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And my nephew has a hilariously large head.
Your poor sister-in-law.
Yeah, my sis. Well, it's my sister.
Oh, your sister.
Yeah, and she sent me a video of him because he's learning to like roll around. And he was rolling around, and he kind of like full scorpioned with his feet up in the air because his head is so heavy. It's like
Is he
the
like
rest
a
of his
Funko
body
Pop?
is fighting it. Yeah, he looks like a Funko Pop. And I was like, he's so top heavy that like he's like tilting forward. And she's like, you're not joking. And she sent me, she has like charts, and it's like one is his body weight. And he's like in the middle or even on the lower end of average.
Right.
And then the next one is like I think his BMI or something, which I was like, how does that even work for a baby?
I don't know.
They don't have height because they can't stand.
They have length.
Yeah, right. Your length versus your weight, I guess. And that was, he's like, again, like kind of on the lower end, you know, like of normal.
He's a little guy.
Yeah. His head circumference, he's in the 98th percentile.
You know what? He's just going to be brilliant.
I hope so, because otherwise it's just a lot of empty baggage he's carrying around up there.
Oh, poor guy.
He'll be fine.
Yeah.
It's an affliction that's common in our family. It's fine.
Okay. I'm not going to comment. All right. So, ready for some books?
I'm ready.
Okay. The first one is Woe, a house cat's story of despair
Okay.
by Lucy Knisley. It's basically a comic strip that's like an ode to her cat.
Lucy Knisley. Relish.
Yes.
Is that her? Okay.
That is her.
All
Then
right.
Beast Business by Ilona Andrews.
well.
Which is the most recent in her Hidden Legacy series, which is my favorite series of hers, or theirs, I should say. And it is about an illusionist who is like also a PI, and he gets hired by the head of a house that speaks to animals to find a kidnapped, like conjured creature before it dies.
Okay.
Then I have Exit Zero, Stories by Marie-Helene Bertino.
Okay.
Which is a collection of slightly askew short stories.
All right.
And then Fairy Cat, Volume 1 by Hisa Takano, which is a manga about a teeny tiny cat the size of basically like a plum.
Oh, that's cute.
Is a very cute.
That would be super cute to have, but then also I would have constant anxiety about it.
Well, it's also a fairy.
Oh, okay.
So you don't have to worry.
So I'm not going to just like roll over and crush it in my sleep
I
or
don't
something?
think so. I think it would be annoyed, but I think it'd be fine.
Okay. That does make me feel better.
Yeah.
It was like Ant-Man of cats, and he's like, well, he still has the somehow disproportionate strength
Right.
of his full-size self.
But in a teeny weeny pack.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I would step on it all. You know, like how cats like to be underfoot all the time?
Mhm.
Like that would be 1,000 times worse.
Yeah. I think it has great situational awareness.
It must.
And also, since they're fairies and they're magical, they only let certain people see them.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I do at one point want to hear about Beast Business. I'm just deciding whether to save that for the end.
It's up to you, man.
2 cat books.
I know. I'm in a cat mood.
I think I want to hear about Fairy Cat.
Okay.
Just a little more. You know what? I feel like we kind of got a little momentum going for it, so we might as well go for it.
Yeah. So it is. I mean, it's not that deep, you know? It's a really cute manga about, it's set in Japan. There's a student, his name is, I wrote it down because I knew I'd forget, Kanade.
Okay.
And he happens to spot, it's raining and he has like a house plant out on the balcony and it's getting like drenched. And he's like, going to drown the house plant, so I'm going to bring it inside. So he brings it inside. And then he notices, he like turns around to shut the window and there are all these teeny tiny little like water droplets that look like they're trailing off into his like room. And so he follows them and he spots a teeny tiny cat, about this, it's a palm-sized cat. And it looks like a Siamese with very fluffy hair.
Yeah.
And he's like, it's a palm-sized cat, which is like a fairy cat. It's a cat that's also a fairy. And they're like, it's a known thing. And so he's like, amazing. And maybe I can convince it to live here. But then he like turns his back and he can't find it anymore. And as the reader, we know that it like likes enclosed spaces. So it's like between the wall and the curtains, or like between the headboard and the wall, or behind his books on the shelf. Like it finds all of these little spots to be. And he's convinced that it's left. But he comes back from school and it's like on his desk, like sitting in his pencil case or something, having a nap, having a snooze. And so it's kind of decided to live with him, which apparently they do. They occasionally decide to live with someone for a while.
Cat distribution system.
Yep.
The fairy cat distribution system.
Yep. And so it's just like lots of little small vignettes of this guy like trying to figure out what the fairy cats would like to be named. Or, you know, maybe if I hold very still, it'll come and sleep on the bed next to me. You know, all of these, exactly what any cat lover would be doing if we were blessed by a teeny tiny, adorable, fluffy cat.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, and for a moment I was like, oh, I should show this to my wife. She would like that. And now I'm like, I think she might pass away.
It
like
is
if it's too
so cute.
Yeah.
It is very cute.
I don't know if she'd be able to handle it.
I think you would be doing her a disservice to keep it from her, honestly.
Oftentimes, I don't know if I'd say oftentimes, but at times she'll be showing me pictures or short videos of cats and we'll just start crying.
Yeah.
Do you remember there was a lady many years ago who was like one of the, you know, early on viral videos? And it was, I think it ended up being staged, but it was her like doing oh, that's pretty cute.
Yep. I just showed Peter the cover just for anybody who can't see, obviously.
There was a lady, and I think it was, but the premise was she was doing like an online dating service and recording her like.
I saw that.
Yeah. And she's like, I like cats. I like any kind of cat and I want to pet all of them, but I can't. And then she's like, I'm crying because I'm thinking about cats again. And like, oh, it was one of the ones that whoever those guys were turning into songs. Like it was a very early, because there was the guy, they're climbing in your window, snatch it, you know, that guy.
Snatching your people up.
Yep. And I think she was also
hide
in
your
that.
Kids, hide your wife.
Yes. I think she was also one of, I don't know if it was theirs, but in that milieu.
Oh,
look at that. And my wife is the real life version of that.
Yeah.
Like really does.
I can confirm. Yeah.
If like we go for walks, you know, and if she doesn't see any cats in the windows or whatever, she's like bummed out.
Yeah.
Halfway through the walk, she'll get kind of quiet and she's just like, I just thought maybe we'd see a cat by now.
I think you need to show her Fairy Cat.
Yeah, I probably will.
It's very, very cute.
I think maybe I'll just check it out and then
leave it around.
Yeah, just be like,
I need to report back on how that goes.
All right.
We have the first 2 volumes in the library collection.
Okay. I'll leave it out. I'll just leave it out like a little trap. See.
Yeah, if you ever need her to be somewhere specific, just leave it there.
My guess is she will see it and go, oh, what's this? Look at this perfect sweet baby.
It's very cute. It is perilously cute. Like that cute aggression thing.
Yeah,
like if I had that tiny, teeny cat in my palm, I do worry that I would just want to squeeze it to death.
She has, in her lifetime, twice squeezed a cat hard enough that it pooped a little. Because kind of accidentally. Very accidentally, but like.
Yeah. Cassie, if you're out there, I understand.
So she definitely has cuteness aggression.
Yeah. I get it. In a very real way.
Yeah. She kind of like, she'll make fists when she sees something really cute and like her knuckles start turning white. And I'm like, okay.
Yep.
We need to get you home and look at something unpleasant.
Yep.
On the internet.
That's pretty much it. It's not very, very complicated, but it is very, very cute.
There are a couple like manga series like that going, right? The Cat Plus Gamer is kind of in that realm.
There are a lot of cat related manga that are just like, we love cats. And it's like 10-4.
Yeah. Turns out
I get it.
There's plenty of people who are like, yeah, I'll read that.
There are cat people in the world.
Yeah. I read Cat Plus Gamer. I enjoy it.
Cool. I haven't read that one.
It's good.
Cool.
I think you'd like it.
All right.
I'm
ready.
My first book is called Happily by Sabrina Orah Mark. These are kind of like essays, but they're connected to fairy tales.
Ooh.
So she kind of like talks about fairy tales sometimes, or like modernizes fairy tales, or compares events in her life to fairy tales.
Okay.
They're harrowing at times. Some are very funny. They kind of run the gamut there.
Okay.
The next one is called Mr. Wilman's Motoring Adventure, Top Gear Grand Tour, and 20 Years of Magic and Mayhem by Andy Wilman.
Okay.
So Andy Wilman was the producer for Top Gear on the BBC. And then also the Grand Tour later on and stuff like that. So he kind of tells a lot of stories about how it all started and like some behind the scenes stuff and just lots of stuff that you didn't see. He pretty specifically towards the beginning is like, I'm not going to like go over everything that you saw. Right. Because that would be boring. Right. And he's like,
just watch the episode.
Yeah. And he's like, also like the 3 presenters have all written books and they've done a better job than I probably will. Which I might disagree with. Next is Sainted by Elisa Zimmerman. This is a book of poems.
She is coming to ReadCon.
That is why it's on the list. Also because I read it. Also because it's good.
Excellent reasons all.
ReadCon, Friday, April 24th. Go to mylibrary.us/ReadCon. Get your tickets.
Tickets are free.
Tickets are free. Yep. We just have to have tickets so we know there aren't 1,000 people coming.
Right.
I don't think 1,000 people are coming, but we don't want to turn people away.
We want to know.
Yeah.
We want to be prepared.
It's helpful to know how many of you are coming. And if you're thinking about coming, but you're not sure yet, just get online and get tickets now.
Yeah.
And then you have the option and also maybe feel a little guilty if Friday comes along and you're like, eh.
Well, and honestly, we'd rather have a couple empty seats for the people who don't get tickets.
For sure.
Than have, nobody get tickets and then we don't have any seats.
Exactly. The last book is called The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe, How to Know What's Really Real in a World Increasingly Full of Fake. So this is a book, I think it's birthed from a podcast of the same name, Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. And it's a combination of like how we're often wrong about things and then also kind of how to approach the world with a sort of healthy skepticism. a measured skepticism, not complete
Right.
irrational skepticism.
Right.
So those are my 4 books.
Well, you've picked a bunch of things that I'm actually interested in, and that makes my life difficult. Because, like, I really like essays and I really like fairy tales. So there's that. And then the whole Top Gear thing is one of the shows that should least appeal to me in the world, but is so watchable.
Yeah.
And I struggle to explain it.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah. And then obviously Sainted. Very imminent interest because of ReadCon. And then Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. I am interested in that kind of like discussion of science and knowing what's real. And it's something that I think is going to be increasingly important as like AI, deep fakes, all of that. Like how do we assess reality?
Yeah.
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 So well done. You've put me in a conundrum.
I read many important books in the last month.
Let's start with The Skeptic's Guide to the Universe.
Okay. So I think this book kind of has come out of, I'm going to try and talk about this in a delicate way. So just excuse me if you're listening to this and you're like, what? Whatever. I think the world has become a place where there's a lot of unwarranted skepticism about certain things and lack of skepticism about things that people should probably not accept at face value.
Right.
This probably comes up a lot in the realm of politics right now.
Yeah.
And also maybe like, I see it a lot in, we all know how our feeds online become populated by things that whatever.
Yeah.
And so I see a lot
They're
of
outrage machines sometimes.
And I see a lot of, I'll give you an example. There's a documentary on Netflix right now that's like about microplastics. And my wife was like, I want you to watch this trailer because she wanted me to get all tuned up. And so like the trailer is about, I don't know, like 6 couples or something, and they're trying to conceive and they haven't been able to. And so then the documentary is like, what if we removed microplastics, things that are introducing microplastics to your system from your lifestyle? And we did that for like 6 weeks, and then maybe we'll see what happens. And I'm like, that is such a horrendously designed experiment. I was like, you can't do that with 6 people and then consider that a result.
Yeah.
You can't do that, with couples trying to conceive and then, you know what I mean? And I'm like, well,
there's
it means
so many
nothing.
Possible reasons.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, maybe they're like behaving differently other ways because, in getting rid of plastics, maybe that means they're eating less like highly processed foods, or like maybe they're doing less of this, or like I'm being documented right now. So maybe I'm living a more, I don't know, healthy lifestyle or what. There's
none of which is bad, but doesn't make for a good study.
Horrible study.
Yeah.
And it's so upsetting to me because I'm like, you can't just do that and then be like, aha, microplastics are the problem.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I was like, she wants to watch it because I think she just enjoys me being enraged sometimes. And I was
As someone who shared an office with you for years, I get it.
I was like, the only ending I will accept to this documentary is they're all in the exact same place. Also, I'm like, okay, these people are all in their like late 20s to early 30s.
Here we go, everyone.
And I'm like, do you think 30 years of absorbing microplastics is going to be undone by 6 weeks of not doing that? Like, that's asinine. Like, it's such a... okay, anyway.
I have to just take a moment and add some context here. There was a time when I told you in our office that part of me wishes that you would never read a book you liked again.
Yes.
Because hearing you crash out is so much fun.
I've heard that from a couple people. There've been a handful of books in my life that I've read that I found so terrible that I just couldn't stop. I I don't know. Sometimes a book like, I'm trying to think of an example.
The Tyra Banks book.
Oh, yeah. Model Land.
Yep.
Yeah. It's so.
You wrote a book that was, or a review of that was almost as long as the book itself.
Yeah. And that's a long book.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like I don't know, 80,000 word review of the book because there were so many things that didn't make sense. I always flash to there's like a part in that book where something happens to somebody, but they're on the other side of this wall. So I'm like, Tyra wrote herself into a corner because they're like, how are the characters going to see what's happening on the other side of the wall? Some magical bolt of lightning hits the wall and turns it transparent so they can see what's happening. But then they need to not be able to see what's on the other side of the wall. So a second bolt of magic lightning hits the same wall again and turns it opaque. And I was just like, why would... There's so many other ways you could have done that. Why? Okay.
I'm sorry.
Anyway.
I should not have brought it up.
That's not your fault. That was my fault. Let's get back to the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe. So I think the book kind of starts out, and the beginning portion, a lot of it is about things that we perceive or things that we think of as logical often being wrong. Mm-hmm. And it's not like aggressive in the way of saying like, everyone is stupid and wrong all the time. It's more like saying, it talks about scientific studies about like how memory works and how, they explain like you remember something this way and someone else in your family remembers it this way. I have this memory of one time my mom and I went to the airport together and she picked me up and we went to the airport and we were late. And so we missed our flight. And this has happened to me one time in my entire life. She remembers it as somehow the lateness was my fault. And I remember it as she picked me up and was like, here's what time we should leave. And I remember thinking, that seems a little late. But I was like, she knows what she's talking about. And anyway, so we both blame each other for this. Kind of a funny side story to that. Several years later, we were driving out for my brother's wedding, and she was driving us to the airport, me, my then girlfriend, now wife, and her. And she picked us up a little late, and so we're like kind of hustling to get to the airport. Then she hit a traffic cone, and it got stuck in the wheel well of her car.
Oh, no.
So she had to pull over, and I managed to pull it out, and everything was fine. And, we got there, whatever.
Did you make the flight?
We did make the flight.
All right.
It wasn't like, we weren't like Home Alone running through the airport, but also it wasn't like a leisurely,
right?
Easily make it. And it was just like, I was like, one of the two of us is responsible for the time we got to the airport here in a couple ways. Anyway, I don't even know how I got into
memory,
that.
how memory works.
So like your memory is not a set in stone photograph of a situation. And it's like, as soon as it becomes a memory and the moment is over, your mind starts like reshaping it and forming it and, kind of creating things that didn't happen or things that weren't there,
Putting things
like,
into a different context.
Yeah, or like changing the order and doing other things to kind of make it conform to your perception of the world. So just a lot of things like that. I think kind of suggesting to everyone reading, like, you shouldn't be as sure about things as you might be sometimes. And then it kind of shifts a little bit to the other side of like, when are times that you should be skeptical about something like I think is true, but whatever. Anyway, I think it's a very healthy look at the idea of skepticism. It's not someone saying like, don't trust anyone about anything.
Right.
Because that's a ridiculous way to go through life. It's not possible. It doesn't work. It's like, well, look, do you, every time you get on an airplane, look up the pilot's credentials? Probably not.
Right.
And it's like...
you have to trust other people did their jobs.
Yeah.
But the system put in place worked.
Yes. And, it's like there are times to be skeptical and there are times to maybe not be so skeptical or like maybe pick a lane to be skeptical in and then work from there. Anyway, one of the best pieces of advice to share from it is the writer kind of talks about like, how do you understand like, when the news is talking about a scientific study, and oftentimes the way they talk about it's not great. And depending on the newspaper you read, it might be someone saying like, study inconclusive about whatever. And then the other one's like, study finds no link between this and that. And it's like, that's not really what that means.
Right.
Anyway, he was like, I don't really advocate for people learning how to read scientific studies because that's not realistic. And the other thing is he's like, if you have a lot of context for something like in medicine and they do a study about a vaccine, he's like, there's a lot that's in the study and there's a lot that goes unsaid in the study because people who are in that field understand those things.
Right.
And he's like, the only real way to read and understand the complete context of those things is to have like a complete background in medicine.
Right. To go to medical school, get your PhD, get, 13 years of experience in the field and then run the study and then read the study.
Yes.
Yeah.
So his advice is actually to, instead of trying to vet every study or every claim or whatever, is to try and find experts that you trust.
Yeah.
People who have that experience and that you can vet them.
Right.
And then, and he's careful to, not say like just trust people.
Right.
But more like find people that you feel can clear a bar of trust with you and listen to them. And
I have an example actually. So when my mom passed away, I was named as the executor for her estate, for her will. And I have an uncle who A, is a lawyer, and B, had been the executor for my grandmother's estate. And so I got in touch with him and he walked me through all of the forms I needed to fill out and what offices to go to.
Right.
And all of that. He gave me advice through the whole process.
Right.
And because A, he has legal knowledge and B, he'd done it before, he was the perfect person for me to like give me advice.
Right. Instead of you learning how to do all of these things, it's like
horrendously complicated process, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, I remember when that was happening. It took forever.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe how long it took.
Yeah. Actually, I had to reopen it. It's open right now.
Oh, God.
Yeah. So.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah. Let's not talk about it.
Okay. Yeah, just things like that, right? And it's like, I think people have an easier time with something like that, trusting an expert, and like whatever. And then, but I don't know, it does seem like these days, people go to Dr. Google for things. And it's like, I guess I wouldn't tell people not to Google their symptoms or not to Google, because everyone's going to.
Right.
But like,
be aware of where the information came from.
Yeah. And then maybe like before you do something, or like, I don't know, before you attempt a procedure on yourself, maybe go to a doctor, or find a doctor that you can trust.
Yeah.
That you
maybe
feel
find a doctor before you need it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. So that when you need it, you can just go.
Yes. And then if they can't do it, they can refer you to someone they trust.
Right.
And like, anyway, I thought it was really good. I think it's like
complicated issue, but
yeah, it is complicated because, you don't want to just believe everything.
Right.
But also,
you don't want to disbelieve everything either.
Yeah. Because you're like, how is it 2026 and we're still arguing about whether or not the world is flat? You know what I mean? And it's like, come on, guys. Like,
every once in a while I see a video of flat earthers running an experiment and proving that the world has a curve, and it makes me laugh.
We watched a documentary about, all that, and they did 2 different experiments that actually proved the world was curved.
Yeah.
And it was just like, well, I guess it was a well-designed experiment.
Right.
It didn't give you the results you wanted.
I know. It kind of breaks your heart when they were so sure, then they prove themselves wrong, and that like they just stand there for a minute like, huh.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know, it sucks. But honestly, the best skill that I learned as an adult, because I remember when I was in like junior high, like this desperate need to be right about things because being wrong was so uncomfortable and made me feel stupid.
Yeah.
Growing up in teaching myself to be okay with being wrong is the best skill I ever gained.
Yeah. Oh, you waste so much less time that way. Because you're just like, oh, if I find out I'm wrong about something, I don't have to like defend what I believed before. I can just move on and just be like, oh, okay. Yeah, let's do that then.
And it's once you've done it a couple times, surprisingly easy.
Yeah.
It's like none of my identity is wrapped up in any of my opinions. Like, prove me wrong and I will move on from it. It's fine.
Same. Yeah, I'm just like, okay,
that's nice.
Fine.
I like it.
Well, especially because I feel like half the time when I'm like very wrong about something, it's often something that I haven't really spent that much time on or looked into very much. And I'm like, yeah, why would I get all wrapped up in something that before I found out I was wrong about, I didn't care about?
Right.
You know, it's like, yeah, in that documentary, there was this guy and he was like this amazing craftsman and he like would make these flat earth models out of wood and they were like all carved out and everything, like all the continents and everything were carved, and he would set them into clockworks so they would like turn, and he would blow glass domes for them and everything. It was incredible and they were beautiful, and I was just like, it's such a shame that this is what you're putting your time and energy
But on the
into.
other hand, like, you come out of that whole experience, you still are an amazing craftsman. Like,
Yes. Yeah, I just wish he was doing
still
something.
make art.
Yeah. Yeah. I was like, well, these are really cool.
I mean, they look cool. They're an art piece still.
Yeah. Yeah. They still are interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know, if I was like a curator at a museum, I was like, should we get one of these? Just like show people what flat earth people think.
I mean, we have all kinds of things in museums that aren't true that we thought were true.
Yeah.
Like, they've put together dinosaur skeletons wrong. And then later it's like, this is what we used to think.
Yeah.
And then we learned that it's actually this.
It always reminds me of this, when I was in 6th or 7th grade, we had a project. This is so silly. And, you know, it was like a school thing and we had to work in groups, and it was like you get a sheet of paper that has a bunch of outlines of dinosaur bones and you cut them all out and you're supposed to make what you think this dinosaur looked like.
Oof.
I was teamed up with these two kids who were, one of them was like, you know, like the bad kid in class, like the worst acting out kid in class.
The one who wanted to make everything an inappropriate appendage.
It's exactly what he did.
Yep.
The dinosaur had what appeared to be a pelvis, but turned in such a way. And then, so then the teacher was like, no. So the kid was like, it's okay, we'll draw clothes on him. So he put him in like bell-bottom pants and like a shirt and put a disco ball in it, you know, like the dinosaur was disco dancing. And the other kid, I remember this other kid, Tony, I still remember his name. And he was just like, why are you doing this? We're going to fail this assignment because of you. Like, because you just, and he was like, no, I'll fix it, you know, and made it way worse.
Yeah.
Anyway, whenever I think, and then I'm always like, how was that guy working at the museum in the past? Like, is this his second or third life? And he's like, I know what I'm doing.
You got to applaud the creativity.
I know how to put these bones together. It was very creative.
Yeah.
And he started making up a song for it and everything. And I was just like, well, F for effort. All right.
All right.
Well, I'm going to hear, I would like to hear about Beast Business.
It's kind of you to
Ilona Andrews.
To, you know, give me an outlet.
You know what? I like to hear people talk about things that they're into. So I feel like that's a good choice.
Okay. So this is number, I think, 8 in the Hidden Legacy series, which is my favorite series that they write after the book Ruby Fever. It's focuses on some side characters. So people who have read the series will know about Harrison. Augustine Montgomery. He's been a long time like an associate and eventually a partner of the main family in the series. He is a private investigator. He's also an illusion prime, which means he's one of the most powerful illusion he has illusion power and it's of the most powerful kind.
Is illusion power like being a magician?
No, it means so he can make himself look like someone else.
Oh, okay.
Down to the way that they smell. So an animal wouldn't be able to tell that he's an imposter.
I see.
Yeah. And so someone less powerful might be able to look like them, but maybe couldn't talk because they couldn't hold the illusion while their mouth was moving.
Okay.
Or, would be able to talk, but wouldn't be able to mask the scent.
I see.
So that a dog would know immediately that this is the person. He can do the whole thing.
Okay.
So he's one of the most powerful illusion primes in the city, or maybe in the world. And he's a private investigator, and he works with them a lot of times on different cases. And then you have House Harrison. So one of the private investigators who works for the main family in the series. He's an animal mage. So basically he bonds and can communicate and direct animals.
Okay.
And his sister is the head of their house. And she comes to the illusion mage because she needs help. They're in a previous book, there was an animal that was conjured from an alternate dimension that looks kind of like a panther, but with tentacles. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
And so they have two of these animals, and they have managed to mate, and there's a baby.
Okay.
And the baby has been there was somebody who wanted to buy it so that they could take it apart and figured out how it worked.
Of course.
Of course.
The E.T. classic.
Yup.
Oh, there's an alien creature. We should take it apart and see what happens.
And they're animal mages. They bond deeply with animals.
Sure.
And they have bonded with and they were no. We're not for any amount of money are we going to do that.
Yeah.
Especially since he asked them to keep it calm while he did the surgery so that it could be alive while he took it apart.
Yeah.
And they were yeah.
And not happening. Yeah.
So now the baby has been kidnapped.
Okay.
By somebody
the animal
else.
Baby?
Yeah. So the two animals had a baby.
Oh, okay.
And the baby animal now has been kidnapped.
Okay.
By someone who was able to get past all of their dogs and stuff, an illusion mage or illusion prime who was able to get into their facility, take the baby and escape. And nobody recognized that it happened, which is why she kind of approached him. So she was like, you might maybe have an idea of who did it, and we can track down maybe who did it. So they are on the hunt for this missing little animal, and it's kind of a novella. It's much longer than a short story, not quite so long as a full novel.
Okay.
But long enough to be fully satisfying, in a story, and fits right in and teases maybe where we're going. I had worried that they were done with this series, which would make me very sad. I love this series, but it sounds like there's another book coming. So that makes me happy.
This particular series reminds me of the sort of bonkersness of comics in a lot of ways. Like when you're describing the animal mage, and I was like, oh, this is I'm familiar with this because of the uncreatively named Animal Man. Kind of does a similar sim-ish thing, or like Aquaman, I guess, a little bit.
Talk to the fish.
Yeah.
It comes in surprisingly helpful for a private investigator. At one point, they use a ferret to go through a dryer vent to infiltrate a house that has crazy security. Like
Beastmaster.
Yeah.
He has a ferret friend.
Sure.
Who would probably be useful in modern times to go in buildings and stuff. Yeah. But when he's living out in barbarian days in the desert, I'm I don't know how useful this guy is.
Well, they used it to help wire a house. Because they needed to take new wiring through this pipe, and so they just ran the ferret.
That's, yeah. I wonder if we lived in a world like that, if that's what would end up happening. Most people's powers would just be used for practical purposes.
Well, in this world, it sounds like most people who aren't crazy, crazy powerful, they just get jobs related to their abilities.
Yeah.
And then it's the really, really super powerful ones who become very rich off of it.
Yeah, Wolverine could work at a deli. Slicing stuff.
Are his like finger knives his power, or is his healing his power? Like really?
Well, you know what? I was about to go into a very long well, you could look at that a number of different ways.
Have I activated the nerd within?
I think I was very close to just falling into. I keep talking about like my family and my wife and stuff, but like yesterday, my wife asked me a question that was not smart to ask me because I had gone to a surplus property thrift store, and she was like, "Was there anything interesting there?" And I was
interesting, possibly the wrong word.
Yeah, I was like 2 minutes into talking about how I was looking for a power supply, and it needed to be 12 volts, 1 amp. And they had a whole box of 12 volts power supplies, but of different amperage. And so I was looking through, and like 2 minutes into the story, she was like, "Sometimes I think you don't even need me here. Like, you could just tell this story to no one, and it would be exactly the same." And I was like, "It's your fault. You asked."
She asked if you'd found anything interesting.
Well, she should have said interesting in general, not interesting to me.
Honestly, do you honestly think that these power sources and amperage would you classify that actually as interesting?
No.
That is my point.
No, I wouldn't. I mean, yeah, in fairness, it was interesting to me because I happened to be looking for this recently, and like they had what I was looking for, but not quite. So it was kind of like a odd coincidence.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to raise a flag on that one.
It's totally fair. I would counter though and say, by now my wife should know better.
She should
than
know
to
you.
Ask me.
That was a terrifyingly open-ended question.
Yeah, that was not smart of her to ask. I also, yes, I could have answered it in a more, I could have started in and then just been like, you know what? I recognize what I'm about to tell you is not interesting.
Right. Not even really to you.
Yeah. But we were stuck in traffic in the car. So I was like, whatever, we're killing time here.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah. They have a wackiness sound to them.
They are
that is like appealing.
Real good fun.
Yeah.
Real good fun. And there's a new book coming out, brand new series, first in a new series next week.
I cannot believe how much they write.
They write a lot.
Yeah.
They write a lot. And they're currently in a bunker finishing book 2 in that series.
Okay.
I've signed up for their newsletter.
Yep.
I need to know when things are coming.
Yeah. I think the newsletter is a good way for authors to do that stuff.
Yeah.
I'm only signed up for like 2 author newsletters.
I have discovered that they have a nickname for their fans, which I think is appropriate. They call them the Book Devouring Horde.
Okay, yeah.
Because apparently they get emails the day that books are released asking when the next one's out.
Come on, guys. Can't give them like a month?
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know.
I wouldn't do it, but I also get it.
You know, the 2 that I'm subscribed to, one is Jeff Strand's newsletter.
Mm-hmm.
He writes very funny newsletters and also always has like a probably 250 word short horror story in all of them.
Yeah, they send shorts out too, which is a bonus.
Yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
You can also just get them on their website. You don't have to get the newsletter, which is double nice.
I think Jeff Strand, well, he always ends up putting them into a book. But if you don't want to wait for it. And then the other one is Chip Zdarsky, who I think writes the best newsletters of all time. They're super funny.
Bold claim.
Yeah, but they're really good.
Have you read all of the newsletters in the world?
No. But Chip Zdarsky is publishing all of his, you know what? Again,
it's fine.
I'm going into a realm. Am I about to tell an interesting story or just a story?
It's my fault. I did open that door.
Well, I'm happy for you that Ilona Andrews
Thank you.
had a new thing and is on the verge of having another new thing, apparently.
Regular new things coming.
I just don't know how they can. I would be so curious to find out from them like what the process is and how they get so much out.
They write very consistently and it feels quite quickly.
It's wild.
So
And apparently of good quality. Like you enjoy it.
I freaking love them. Like put it in my veins.
Yeah.
In my veins.
Like, so it seems like very few, if any, misses for you. Like,
yeah. Even my less favorite books I've still enjoyed, fully enjoyed.
Yeah.
Like
That
they
seems
have
very
one
rare.
where they did a book one of a potential series and then didn't pursue it.
Yeah.
And I can see why, because it was not my favorite of their books. But if they had written more, I would have continued to read them.
Right. Or like sometimes when you're looking at like, you know, like a band and you're just like, every album they put out is great.
Yeah.
And I don't understand that. That makes no sense. Like they're due to have a crap album sometime soon.
And then they just never do.
Yeah, or even like they'll put out an album that you're not as hot on, but like you're saying, you're like, hey, look, if some unknown band put out this album, I'd be like, this is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, this is a great trajectory.
Yeah. Still enjoying myself.
Yeah.
Still having a good time.
I'd still take it.
Yeah. Maybe one day I'll tempt you into dipping your toes in.
It seems possible.
Yeah.
It seems possible.
I've gotten you to read weirder stuff.
Yeah, true. Very true.
Yeah.
License to Love.
Yeah.
That was
I just wanted to hear your review.
That was one of the weirdest things I've ever read. It was kind of great.
All right. Now I have to hear about Sainted.
Okay. So Sainted is a book of poems written by Lisa Zimmerman, who is a poet and fiction writer and essayist and college professor of mine.
Here in Greeley.
Yep. And someone that, I'm a big fan of. And I
actually know her too, because I used to work in the English department when I was in school.
Yeah.
And she was a professor there then too. And
yeah,
she's very nice.
She's great. I like her a lot. She's very passionate about what she teaches and helping students and stuff. And I got to interview her for ReadCon, and like we actually met in person and stuff and talked.
That's cool. Does she remember you?
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Deciding whether or not to share this. I'm going to share this, but let's just all know I thought about not, because I feel like it might sound, but she was saying that she has a copy of a poem I wrote that she shares with classes a lot.
Aww.
Because it's an exercise she still does with her classes.
You were afraid this would sound self-aggrandizing.
Yeah.
Oh.
But you know what?
I just think it's sweet.
People who listen to this know, you know.
You're into the self-deprecation.
Yeah. I was regaling my wife with tales of looking through 12-volt power supplies. Like, I know my station in life.
Yeah.
Anyway, so she told me a little bit about this book that I didn't even know. So I read it, and then
you read it before you interviewed her.
Yeah. And I know nothing about Catholic saints, and like I don't know anything. I know very little about Catholicism other than the very basics. So it was kind of interesting because as I was reading this, I was like, I'm like learning things, which isn't like a common thing for poems, I think.
I love the way you like, what the heck? I'm learning.
Yeah, it was a little bit like being tricked. Like, you know, you trick kids with Sesame Street because they're like, ooh, Oscar the Grouch, that's fun. Or like, ooh, a vampire. That's actually kind of a little scary for me as a 4-year-old.
Right.
I was like, wait, does he?
Then they learn how to count to 5 in Spanish.
Yeah. You're like, is he going to drink Ernie's blood? Like, but I felt like I was like learning a little bit about how it worked. And she wrote, most of the poems are about lesser known saints. Okay. So they're not about, but there is a little bit about, I think, like St. Francis. And I think there's one about, who's the lady?
There are a lot of them.
The warrior lady.
Oh, Joan of Arc?
Joan of Arc. Yeah. And there's one about Mother Teresa, which is pretty interesting. But I think those are the only ones that I as a non, whatever, recognized. And the rest I was like, what?
I am at best lapsed.
Yeah. And so
at
then
best.
It prompted me to like look up a little bit about saints. And I was like, Catholic saints. And I got on the Wikipedia page and I was like, oh.
There are some wacky stories.
Yeah. And there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
I probably sound so stupid right now, but I was just like, I had no idea there were this many, because I don't know. I guess I think of biblical stuff and I'm like, 10 commandments. That's a reasonable number. 12 apostles.
Unending
That seems like a
saints.
reasonable number. Yeah, the saints, I was like, who could keep track of this?
I remember looking up once the saint. My mom was more of a practicing Catholic, and I am a loosey-goosey Catholic at best. But I looked up what was the saint for her birthday, just out of curiosity. And my mom famously had a very sensitive nose. Like she could tell, like she could smell things out of nowhere. She would be like, is there something burning? And then we'd go outside and like 3 states over, there was a forest fire. Like it was bananas. And I looked up the saint for her birthday, and it was a woman whose nose was so sensitive she had to climb the chimneys to get away from the city stink. And I was like, wow, touched by her own saint.
Yeah, it happened. Also, how horrible, like if you had to live in those times in a city.
Must have been bad.
That's torturous. Anyway, so like I felt like I was learning some things, and then it was super interesting because when I interviewed her, I found out, so this is a book she wrote on sabbatical. So she works at the university and is finally eligible for sabbatical. And she'd had this idea because she was raised Catholic by her dad.
Mm-hmm.
And her dad was in the military, so they spent some time in Brussels because he was there.
Stationed.
Yeah. And had toured a bunch of cathedrals and stuff like that. And wherever they went in Europe, basically, her dad was like, we're going to whatever the Catholic stuff is.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're going to look at.
Right.
So she had a lot of experiences like going to like a convent and some other stuff.
Cathedrals.
Yeah. And so was very inspired by like all the art and other things people had made around Catholicism and the saints. And then she was, kind of left the church when she was still pretty young, but has always kind of been interested in that. So she went on sabbatical and was researching these poems. And like to the point where there's one poem where she talks about, so when St. Francis died, St. Clare put flowers on stigmata that he had. And so Lisa, when she's writing this poem, was like, well, wait a minute. This would have been October in Italy. What flowers would have been available? Is that realistic? And so then she had to do a bunch of research to find out, like, would there be flowers?
Right.
And if so, what flowers would they be? And she was saying she's like Googling all this. And she's like, I started getting all this stuff because everything I was Googling made people think I was getting married in Italy, and I was planning an Italian wedding in October.
The algorithm.
Yeah, but so like, then I found out like, not only was I learning things, but there's actually a lot of nonfiction to the book. So it's kind of fascinating that way because I don't feel like there's much poetry. Poetry, I don't know traditionally or whatever, but I think for the most part, poetry is not like learning oriented.
Right.
There's not like a learning outcome most of the time when you're reading a book of poetry.
Right.
And this doesn't feel like, it's not like homework or something.
Right. It's not a lesson.
Yeah. But I was like kind of surprised because it's so detail oriented. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like that's how this book works.
And you read a significant amount of poetry. So it's interesting to me that you had like a new experience with poetry.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I feel like most poetry is so based in, most of what I read is based in the poet's life or, experiences, or sometimes it's like a persona poem and they're writing in the whatever. But I'd never thought about, I guess, behind the scenes and getting things so accurate and like that accuracy being important. I guess I think of poetry as having a lot of artistic license.
Right.
And so to hear like, it was very important for her to get things right. I thought that was really interesting.
Cool.
So anyway, it's a great book. We have copies of it in the library, thanks to me, partially.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't want to brag.
Victoria had something to do with it as well.
She did. What ended up happening was, so we couldn't get it because it sold out from the publisher. But then when I met up with her in person, with Lisa, I was like, hey, I know how this works with writers. But you got like a box of those somewhere, right? And she's like, yeah, totally. And I was like, will you sell some to the library, And she's like, yeah. So we were able to get some. So now there are copies available.
We had to go through the secret back channels.
That's right. Finally, me being an English major in college paid off in like a...
It did pay off.
Yeah, it was like maybe a couple of those copies could fall off the back of your Subaru and we could...
If those of us in collection development had medals of service to give, you would have one.
Anyway, it's a really good read. I think it's fun. It's like you don't have to be Catholic or steeped in Catholicism. Also, like they're not... sometimes when I think of religious-based poetry, I think of them being stuffy. And these are not stuffy. They're very readable. They're very like, you'll understand what it's about. Yeah, and a lot of them are very modern and like, you won't like be like, I don't know what that was.
Yeah.
Most of her poetry is not what they call like, I don't know, language poetry, where it's just like, it's abstract.
Right.
And I don't find her poems to be abstract in a way that I don't enjoy.
Right.
Some people
they're
do.
accessible.
Yeah. And they're about a thing.
Right.
Like you read the poem and you're like, even if maybe there's like a metaphor that you weren't catching or whatever, you're like, well, I know what was happening in this poem. You know, she's walking around the lake with her dog. Like,
okay.
A thing happened that I understand and recognize or whatever. So anyway, I really recommend reading the book, and I especially recommend coming to ReadCon on April 24th because she'll read it aloud, and I think she's an excellent reader.
Yeah. I've heard her read aloud. I went to a Halloween event when I was in college pretty early, and they had some of the English professors do dramatic readings from spooky stuff. One read about the ring wraiths from Lord of the Rings, and I don't remember what she read, but I know she read a poem. And I remember it was like every reader that night, I was like, this is how literature should feel. Like, it feels very immediate and like cool and spooky.
Yeah, she's very good at it. Like, I don't know, she's gifted and also has worked on it a lot. And she's memorized a lot of poems. Because she's like, I like to have, when someone's talking about something, to be like, I know a poem about that. Do you want to hear it? And then to just be able to say it.
Yeah.
And like, the one other thing I was going to say that came out of the interview, not necessarily related to this book, but I was kind of asking her about like, I feel like a lot of people don't have poetry in their lives very much. Or like they don't see it a lot or whatever. And something she suggested was like, you can go online to the Academy of American Poets. And then you can search poems and they have a ton of poems. And one of the things you can do is a search by occasion. So you can find like birthday poems or like,
graduation
grief poems or graduation or like birth of child or whatever.
Marriage.
Yes. And she was like, you can always go on and like, if you have to write a card for someone and you don't know what to say, it's like go on there, find a poem, put it in there, and it's like you get the credit of like having written something in the card that's thoughtful and whatever, but also you don't have to come up with something to say to someone when you're like, I mean, what do you say in, my sister birthed this huge-headed child, and I'm like,
poor woman. Our sympathies.
R.I.P. the local hat store. Like, but yeah, like, and I thought that was great advice.
Yeah.
And like a nice idea.
And then you
way.
sound like Smarty Pants.
Yeah. Everyone's going to be like, it was amazing. You put this poem in there. And it's like, took me 10 minutes.
Yeah. They don't need to know that part.
No, they don't need to know. You probably don't do what I do and write in brackets underneath it. It took me less than 10 minutes to find this.
You do not do that.
It's like when you get something for a good price at the thrift store, like a 12-volt power supply, you want to brag about the price.
You know how I know you don't do that?
Yeah.
Because you have a rubber stamp that you use instead.
I do, yeah. Yeah, very quickly. So at High Plains Library District, there's it's a nice tradition. It's a nice idea. like when it's your service anniversary, a card is circulated among the staff and, everyone's like, oh my gosh, 5 years. That's amazing. Whatever. The problem is like, once you've been here for 10 years, and then the other thing is like, there's usually a card like every month. And
there's a lot of people.
Yeah. Right. Like you work in the branch and there's like, I don't know, 30 people who work there or something. And it's like, so 30 cards in a year. So you're doing like, let's say 2 to 3 a month. And you have to come up with something to say.
And you don't want it to be the same for everyone. So like, oh, he said the same thing on your card.
Right.
Because they're signing it too. So they see what you wrote.
Right. LOL, have a cool summer. Stay cool and awesome. Whatever. So eventually what I decided to do was just lean into the fact that I never knew what to say. And I bought a stamp that was like, congratulations with sincerest
emotion. Your colleague.
Your colleague, Mr. P. David Dirk.
Yep. And it delighted everyone. Like it really worked because rather than being like how lazy, everyone was like, that's hysterical.
Yeah. Yeah, because everybody else is in the same boat. You know what I mean? And it's like, I think maybe I'd like to propose like, okay, card for year 1 and then maybe year 5.
The big milestones.
And then every 5 years after that instead of every year. Because when you get one for like year 2, you're like.
Or, send one every year, but only like the director signs it.
Yeah. 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 And it's funny too, because like now I work at the admin building. And so I get one and it's signed by my boss and the director. And that's
Mine is signed just by the director. It comes directly to me in the mail.
Here you go.
Yep.
This is done.
And you know what? I'm fine with it. I actually don't mind at all.
No, I don't either. I don't mind getting it, but also at the same time, I'm like, yeah.
It's not why I do the job.
Yeah. If you don't want to do it, that's fine.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be, if I didn't get a card, I wouldn't be like,
where's my card?
Where's the card, guys?
What the heck?
But I do think it would be better and then just save the oomph for,
for the big ones.
Yeah. When you hit 20 years, all right, send a card.
Yeah.
But Anyway. So I guess that's sainted by Lisa's.
Gone on several different jaunts on the side quests and such.
I do want to say one more thing about it, because just to put something out in the universe. So I went to, they do a writers conference at UNC every year, and I went to it this week. And after leaving, so Lisa runs it and like kind of puts it all together. And so I saw her there, and then she left, and I went home. And then the next day, I realized she had left me a voicemail and didn't get it until
after
the following day at 3 p.m. And it was because she had gotten a flat tire and was trying to find someone to come help her out with it. I know. And I didn't know. And so this was like, I don't know, 8:30 p.m. that night.
You are the last person I would ever text if I needed immediate help.
That's smart. And she doesn't know because we're not like that familiar.
Right.
And so, but she doesn't live in Greeley. And I was like, well, she knows I'm in Greeley and she knows I was awake. So like, but I felt so bad.
Yeah.
I felt so bad.
Would.
And I was explaining, I was like, I am so sorry. I would have been happy to help. My phone is like on super lockdown mode because I have like friends and family who like to get into text frenzies at all. I have some who like to do it at 10:30 p.m. And some who like to do it at 5:30 a.m.
Yeah.
So I'm like, my phone is basically
Fort
a
Knox.
walkie-talkie with my wife. It only really, her stuff's really all that comes through. And then, once a week-ish, I get out a Bluetooth keyboard and then respond to all the texts and the text threads that have built up because I can tolerate typing on a Bluetooth keyboard much better than on the phone.
Yeah.
And so I'm just like, I do like text machine once a week. Like, I feel like such a grandpa. I'm like, let me get out the keyboard and put on my cardigan. I'll get to answering these messages.
Yeah.
Anyway, I just wanted to put out in the universe that You should come to ReadCon because I feel very bad about not helping her.
Help assuage Peter's guilt by making it a success at Lisa's reading.
Yeah, like if 10 people came as a result of hearing this, then I would feel a little better.
Yeah.
I'll probably beat myself up over it for the rest of my life. But
I mean, yeah, it's the kind of thing that will wake you up at 2 in the morning and you just stare into the void thinking,
why?
Yeah.
Why didn't I check my message?
Because you never do.
Because I never do, yeah. Don't call me.
I know.
Because I won't even know.
I email you things that I need immediate information back.
Yep.
I email you because I know it will get to you faster than if I called your physical phone.
Yeah, and I'll respond.
I've known you for 15 years.
You know how I do.
I know. Anyway, so books that we brought. I also brought Whoa, A House Cat's Story of Despair by Lucy Knisley. So she had a cat for very long time named Linny, and she did a regular a web comic about her cat. And anyone who's had a cat knows that every once in a while they will wander the house going like, whoa.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what the title Whoa is, just like her wandering the house going, whoa, whoa.
I used to mock our cat when she did that. I'd be like, oh, whoa. Because that's what it sounded like to me.
So yeah, anyone who's had a cat will relate to a lot of honestly what's going on in this book. It's just like slice of life, little funny stories about her and her cat, and eventually the loss of a cat, because that is also like an inevitability when you have a pet. And so it's basically just like her little cute, poignant tribute to her beloved cat. And it's the kind of thing that anyone who's had a cat will relate to and will chuckle at the knocking over of a water glass onto your head at 2 in the morning because you were dumb enough to leave it there and should have known better.
Yep.
But you did it anyway.
That's very cat owner perspective on that, because it's it's my fault for leaving it there.
Yep.
It's an attractive nuisance. The cat, if a water glass is just sitting on a ledge, cannot help but tip it over.
It will
has no
happen.
choice.
It's an inevitability.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you should have
it's being mad at the sun for rising.
So if you're a cat person, it's a very fast read and very cute and relatable. So that's Whoa. And then I talked about Beast Business already. Then I have a collection of short stories called Exit Zero that I honestly picked up because I read a review and it sounded like my jam, because it's like a short story that is very grounded in the real world, with a glaring exception, you know? So some of the stories are there's a woman and she's wandering around and it's rainy out, and then it starts raining her exes periodically. So an ex-boyfriend will just land on the sidewalk in front of her. And it's it's the kind of thing where it's almost like you would be walking in the rain and having these random memories of people from your past, and it's that made what if that actually happened? You have these thoughts popping up, but they're literally falling out of the sky and landing on the sidewalk in front of you. So that's one example. Or there's a woman in a car accident. She hailed a cab that turned out to already have someone in it, but she was like, "It's fine, come in, and we'll ride share. They'll drop me off and then you can have it." And they get into a car accident, and the woman that she was riding with is killed tragically.
Oh.
And the other woman ends up at the emergency room and is mostly fine, but has maybe a bit of a concussion. And they give her this giant wrapped package that the other person had, and she can't find anyone to give it back to. So she takes it with her. And it turns out to be this very strange modern art portrait of Cher. And she ends up almost having this conversational relationship with the Cher portrait. So that weird one. My favorite one, though, is there's a woman and she has kind of a distant, almost estranged relationship with her father. And she gets word that he has passed away and he's left all of his belongings to her. And his lawyer is like, you have to get up here quickly to clear out his apartment. And so she arrives and starts going through all of his stuff, and she's finding photographs of her as a kid, and it's making her think about things. And then in the backyard, she finds a unicorn. And it turns out that he had like gone to great lengths to acquire this unicorn for her. And, you start to, it's like a very weird story, but also you think about it and it's like, that kind of is what it's like when you're not close with a parent and they want to like make amends. They do things that might suit the child version of you that they knew,
Right.
So it's like weirdness, but weirdness that in a way makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, that makes, if you could tell the story in a very realistic way, but they instead are being very literal.
Yeah. I had an instructor one time who would say, the fiction is the lie that tells the truth truer.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe it's kind of like that.
Yeah.
Like, it's like by creating these fictional things, it makes it more true.
Yeah.
Like the emotion part is true.
Right.
Yeah.
And it also makes you think about it like, what in the world, why a unicorn? And then you start thinking, like, when you start thinking about why a unicorn, and then you think about, well, like, she was a little girl.
Right.
So I don't know. It just worked for me. They're great stories. I recommend it. And it's not that long. The stories themselves are like never more than like 10 or 15 pages. So you can get through it. Like, read one at a time. You'll get through it in a week or two. It's
nice.
Great. And then Fairy Cat, which we talked about, which is just adorable.
All right. So I talked about Sainted and the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't talk about Happily by Sabrina Orah Mark.
I almost picked it.
They're really good. I went to a reading she did, and she read one that was about, to kind of give you an idea of like how they go. It connected 3 different things. It was like a fairy tale, and then a story about how her husband, she had gotten Dunkin' Donuts like as a treat for the family, and her husband was eating a chocolate donut and found a tooth in it, like a human molar.
This really happened?
Yeah.
Oh.
And so.
Oh, I'm never eating again.
Well, okay. So then she was texting everybody, and she had a picture of it and whatever, and then like sent an email to Dunkin' Donuts and was like, hey, we found this or whatever. And like everyone was like reacting, big reactions. And like Dunkin' Donuts was like, okay, we're trying to figure out what happened and, so on and so forth. And we'll get back to you. And then someone else from Dunkin' Donuts was like, I'm in charge of quality assurance. And like, let's, I was wondering if you had time for a phone call and stuff like that. And she was like, we're going to be rich. Like, we're going to sue Dunkin' Donuts. We're going to be rich. And she's like, and so then later that afternoon, her husband comes home and he's like, I realized something today. He's like, so I was teaching and I realized that there was a hole in my mouth, and that was my tooth. That was in the
How?
I don't know. So, and then she's like, so now I'm in this position where I've told everyone this story, and everyone's like, oh, gross, and then she's like, and I've got Dunkin' Donuts like calling me, trying to make amends, work it out. And now she's like, now I have to go back to everyone and be like,
my husband's a fool.
Yeah. And then she kind of connects that into a fairy tale about, I can't remember what it's called, but it's like about a tiny little king.
Mm-hmm.
And then that kind of weaves into a story about how her house burned down, because it's around the same time. And like, they're really interesting. And they're like, I guess she started or did a lot of writing of poems and prose poems and stuff. And I was like, that makes sense. Like listening to her read. It's a really interesting book. It's like very unique.
Yeah.
It's kind of a unique blend of fiction and nonfiction that is enjoyable, but also the stories are just like
entertaining,
fun. Yeah. And like they're a collection of stories that appeared in the Paris Review, I think. She had like it was like a regular column she was doing and then collected them into a book.
Cool.
Yeah.
Is that available through the library?
It is.
Excellent.
And then the other one was Mr. Wilman's Motoring Adventure about Top Gear.
Mm-hmm.
So Andy Wilman was the producer of Top Gear and then of Grand Tour, which was Top Gear. Just, BBC didn't have it anymore. And And like to give you a quick idea of the kinds of things he talks about, one of the things he's talking about is an early show he produced was with Jeremy Clarkson, and it was something about like big machines that operate in the world. And he's like, so we did a shoot. We went out to a humongous cargo ship. And like, I don't remember. He's like, it was like 4 football fields long. And the weight of it was like 250,000 Land Rovers all together. I mean, it was gigantic. And he's like, so we're on this ship and, you know, we're touring around it and stuff. And the plan was a helicopter was going to land, pick us up, and then we'd leave. Because it's like somewhere off the coast of, or somewhere in the Atlantic, whatever. But then they didn't realize what had happened while they were filming was the weather had taken a massive turn. And he's like, we didn't know because this ship is so huge. It just cuts through the waves. It doesn't it doesn't rock. It doesn't move. He's like, we were sitting in this room and there would be a giant wave that crashed over the bow of the ship and it didn't even like rattle your coffee cup on the table. And he's like, so then the captain was like, there's no way a helicopter can land on this ship in this weather. Like, it's not going to happen. So they were like, well, we might just be stuck on here until it gets to port. It was going somewhere in the United States. And so, but then the sound guy was like, I'm getting married on Saturday.
Oh, no.
I cannot be on this boat. And he's like, also, I'm a little pissed off because you are all invited to the wedding. Seemed to have forgotten that you were all coming to the wedding. So they eventually found, you know, the weather calmed a little and they got a tugboat to come out that was like, okay, we'll come out and get you guys. But they were like, this giant ship doesn't stop, you know, and so the tugboat has to come up next to it. And he's like, so what was happening, we had to go over the side of the ship on like a rope ladder. And then the tugboat is in the water and the waves are like 20, 25 feet.
No.
So it's coming way up and then sinking way down.
Couldn't be me.
Like, so you had to get on the ladder and then time it to jump onto the boat. And he's like, but if you went at the wrong time, it would be a 25-foot drop. And he's like, but you couldn't get too low on the ladder because if the boat was up against the side, it would crush you. Yeah. Many harrowing stories, many very funny stories.
All right. Sounds like a good time.
Yeah, and I think it's also a book that I always do like to recommend books that I think are good for like guys who I don't know read a ton. But I think this is one that you could get like if your dad is like a guy's guy and like doesn't read a lot, I think he might enjoy this quite a bit. Also, the audiobook's very good.
Okay. Did you listen to it on audio then?
I did.
Nice.
Yeah. So, I mean, I recommend the audio is great, but it would be a good just regular read as well. And
both count as reading.
Yeah. For some of those, what do we call it? When they're kids, we call them reluctant readers. And we could probably still call them that.
Yeah.
Like,
resistant readers, maybe.
Yeah. Just, that guy who's like,
I got better things to spend my time on.
Yeah.
I'm going to fix that car. I don't want to read about it.
Right. And maybe gets absorbed in a book like once every 5 years.
Right.
Just gets real into a Jack Reacher novel or something and then tears through it and is like, well, I guess that was fun. I'll see you again in 5 years, reading chair.
Yeah.
Okay. Then we have to end with sort of a library fact.
That's right.
So that's the opposite of a joke. Here's what I wanted to tell everyone about. We have a new thing in the collection called memory care kits.
Yay. We've been working hard on these.
Yeah, and they're really cool. I got to see a couple of them. And they're basically, think about it like a kit. We have kits for kids, right? And it would be like a book and a tape and maybe some kind of object that goes with the book or a puppet or something, It's kind of like that, but meant for adults who are maybe having memory issues or maybe in dementia or, that kind of thing. And they're sort of themed. So there's like one that's based on cars and it has like a very visual book about cars. It has like some other car related stuff in it. It's got like a car. It's like conversations for questions on a road trip or something. And then it's got like car trivia because I guess oftentimes folks who are experiencing memory loss have trouble making new memories, but can often remember the past. And so like a lot of the stuff in it is classic cars and things from the past. Anyway, and I think these are designed for if you are a caregiver or maybe a relative or something, and like you're going to visit your parent and they're in this spot and sometimes maybe they're hard to talk to or something. These might be a good way to like talk to them and maybe help them not be frustrated because you're trying to introduce new things or things they don't remember. And it gives you something to talk about that's outside of, whatever. I think they're super cool. I'm super interested to see how they're used and what people think of them. I also think this is one of those things that, like, if it gets used a lot, we'll probably get more. And then there'll be more variety and more options.
Right.
But there's some really good, there's like a gardening one. I think there's like an ocean one. I think there's like I don't know if we got it, but we were thinking about like a World War II history one, stuff like that. So yeah, I just
and they're available now.
They're on the shelf. And if you look up memory care kit, they'll pop up.
Yep.
And there are some also at our member libraries that are under a slightly different name or something.
And they will travel. So if you find that there's one at like the Far Regional Library, but you're at Carbon Valley, you can request it and they'll send it over.
Yep. And it just comes over and it's in like a, kind of bag that we all use to get our groceries these days. And you can take all this stuff out of it. And there's usually some activity kind of thing in there too, but it's like adult appropriate.
Right.
I mean, it's not like inappropriate for a kid, but it's not like a child thing that we've just been like, this is for adults.
Right.
So that's my library fact, which isn't really much of a fact, but a thing that you should all know about.
It's a good fact. And I hope that people find them and they get use. And I hope that they are helpful for people because that's a difficult thing to face.
Yeah, and I think it's a hard thing for like the library to know like how do we serve that audience? Because it's like, what do you get for them? You know what I mean? Like what kinds of things could we do that might be enriching for them? And I think this is a kind of an attempt to see what we could do there. Yeah. Yeah.
We hope it works. Let us know.
Yeah.
If you take one out, let us know how it goes.
Yeah, give us some feedback. Let us know.
Yeah, we honestly want to know.
mylibrary.us/contact.
Yep.
You can find there's a contact form there, which we really do answer.
Yes, we do.
People get those and actually do answer them. So you're not just shouting.
They go into
void.
A big pot and someone sends them to the right person and we deal with them. I get them all the time from people saying, hey, you should consider having this book.
Yeah.
And I say, cool, I will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like a form. It doesn't look super personal, the form or whatever, but just fill it out. Give us the details.
We do see them.
Yeah, we see them all the time.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Yay.
Boom.
Good
done.
job.
Well, we'll see you next month. I have a teaser for next month.
Ooh.
One of the books I'm going to bring is The Shining because I'm going to stay the night at the Stanley Hotel.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Yeah. So I was like, I'm going to do homework before I go.
Nice. Have you read it before?
No.
I'm excited then.
Yeah.
That was my first Stephen King and little, anecdote. My brother gave it to me to read. And this is when I was still living at home. We were in like junior high or high school or something. And I was reading it and I didn't want to stop reading it. And it was the middle of the night and it got too scary. And I woke my brother up and made him sit with me while I read it.
You know what? That's what he gets for giving it to you.
That's right. It was his fault.
That's a good brother.
Yep.
That's pretty funny, though. I would be so annoyed. I feel like, why do I have to be awake?
Because I needed someone to be awake with me.
Yeah, just stop reading it. Like,
I couldn't.
I can't.
It's not how I work.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm about halfway through it.
And enjoying it?
I am enjoying it.
Good.
It's a little bit of a slow burn, partially because it's The Shining. Mm-hmm. So, although
familiar.
I haven't read it, I've absorbed through osmosis some of the stuff. But
especially living in Colorado and not too far from, the Stanley.
Yeah, and
you can't really avoid it.
I used to mow the lawn of a lady who claimed she wrote it in her basement. Which is probably not true. But
I mean, I think we can feel confident about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think it happened, but I don't know. She claims she lived in Boulder at the time, and she did rent to him, was her claim. And so she claims that he wrote it in her basement, but I don't know.
Oh, she didn't write it.
No. She claims that Stephen King
I thought you were saying she
basement.
claimed that she wrote it in her basement.
No.
Okay.
No, she claimed that he
well,
wrote
then
it in her basement.
I don't claim any judgment on whether the veracity of that. I have no idea.
I tried so hard to find out if it was true or not, and I couldn't find any.
Yeah. I mean, I did see, when Dr. Sleep was released, I did see him speak in Boulder, and he reminisced about living in Boulder, but I can't remember any details that might help you.
I'll have to ask him if I ever go to a reading.
Yeah.
Just be like, I used to mow the lawn for this lady, and here's her name. Did you write it? Did you ever write in her basement?
Or was she lying?
Although he might have been in his non-remembering phase at that time. Let's put it that way.
That did occasionally happen.
All right. So next month, I'll have a review of The Shining.
I'm excited.
/ Stanley
I will definitely
Hotel.
be picking it.
Will it get 5 stars on TripAdvisor from me?
Yeah, and we also want to hear if you see any ghosts.
I'll let you know.
Cool.
I'm going to go see a band, and they are playing the entire album, which is titled Among the Ghosts.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Is the band Ghost?
No, it's Lucero.
Oh. Your other favorite band.
Yep. My other favorite band. All right. That's all.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
So I was getting a 12-volt power.
No.